This is what we are planning to cover in this webinar. What's wrong with the current system? What is Kanban? Why Kanban? Then we will briefly look at Kanban versus Scrum, for which projects Kanban will be more suitable, and how to leverage Kanban to create the agile organization for process improvement. We will also touch on Kanban metrics, and then we'll look at jobs and salary trends for Kanban professionals. So starting with the what's wrong with the current system, the way things are happening right now, many of us are feeling burnouts. Whatever work that we are completing, there are lots of bugs when we deploy it to production. I have seen in the recent past, I have seen uh, bugs to the extent of zero point 0.8 bugs for one story point, or or I have even seen 0.65 defects for one work item completed. So it's almost like, even if we are giving an estimation of say 5 days to complete a particular work item, it's almost taking like 7 or 8 days to complete because of the bugs that we are getting. So in addition to that, we also, and because this is happening, there are some complaints about productivity at team level as well as at individual level. We are not able to achieve higher throughput. That's completing more number of items with the limited capacity that we have. So vague sprint planning, the scope of the sprint keeps changing all the time, and or too much work stuffed into one sprint, and then that work spills over to another sprint, next sprint, and then spills over to next sprint. So all these challenges we have been seeing, and there are bottlenecks as well in the current system. We don't know how to even identify bottlenecks. So how does Kanban help us in all of this? Actually, Kanban helps us in addressing all these points, what we have mentioned here as what's wrong with the current system. So what is Kanban? Kanban is a visual system for managing work as it moves through the process. Kanban visualizes both the process, that is the workflow, and the actual work passing through that process. Now, when I looked at the names of some of the participants, I saw that I saw some of the familiar names who are SAFe certified, and they have been introduced to Kanban in the SAFe class briefly, wherein we saw that how work items pass through the process and how do we visualize it on the Kanban board. But it's not just that. The goal of a Kanban system is to identify potential bottlenecks in your process and fix them so work can flow through it cost effectively, smoothly, at an optimal speed or throughput. So at individual level, Kanban might be about, wherein we are talking about reducing overburden or getting rid of overburden at the individual level. But when we look at the service delivery workflow, or even if we look at a workflow, then Kanban helps us manage demand versus capability, because demand keeps on fluctuating. Demand could be seasonal, periodic, or there could be other patterns of demand, and the capacity that we have is kind of limited. So how do we kind of manage demand versus our available capacity? That's what we learn when we move to the team level, or when we move to the workflow level. And when we look at the end-to-end workflow, then we also find out, like you know how Kanban can help us have workflow end-to-end smoothly, without any bottlenecks. So identifying dependencies, identifying bottlenecks, all that is possible with Kanban. And not just identification, but how to remove bottlenecks. That's what we learn in Kanban. Very few other methodologies are actually talking about identifying and removing bottlenecks. So why Kanban? There are a few more pointers that we have here. As I was mentioning, like, it allows us to identify and alleviate bottlenecks. It allows us to establish trust in the process. When you start delivering with predictability, like I would be, whenever I'm starting a particular work item, if I can tell my customer that I would be delivering this work item within 30 days with 98% on time guarantee, or within 10 days with 95% on time guarantee. When you give that kind of predictability to your customer, then it kind of helps us in establishing trust. And in Kanban, we learn how to kind of come up with that predictability. It also, Kanban also allows us to evaluate the impacts of process changes, and it helps us to maintain a sustainable pace with sustainable throughput. So once we kind of know what is our throughput and how, once we map the demand versus capability, then with the help of some of the Kanban metrics, we can also identify how much we would be able to deliver, and whether we can have that sustainable pace with sustainable throughput. So some of the benefits of Kanban, I would say, you also need to kind of relax, and Kanban advocates just that. That's tongue-in-cheek kind of a bullet point, but when you get a relief from overburdening, you start delivering better with you start delivering more with better quality, is what I would say. So here is an example of a simple Kanban board, but this is just an example. I mean, do not go by what you see, just on the screen, because there are multiple examples of Kanban boards. You can have a Kanban board for an individual. You can have a Kanban board for a team. You can have Kanban boards for multiple Kanban teams. You can have multiple teams on a single Kanban board. You can have a Kanban board for service delivery workflow, and you can have Kanban board across multiple services. So Kanban is not about to do, in progress, and done. That's the very basic Kanban board that most of us are aware about. But in Kanban classes, we definitely learn two key things, or three key things, I would say. First, we learn how to create a Kanban system which is much bigger than to do, in progress, and done, which spans across the entire workflow. So we learn how to create that Kanban system. Second thing we learn is how to use Kanban for product development, or creating work items which the development team can pick up and deliver at a sustainable pace. So we call it as upstream Kanban, where where we learn about option management. So that's the second most important thing that we learn in Kanban. And the third important thing that we learn in Kanban is how to manage variability and take care of bottlenecks. These are the three key aspects, I would say, of Kanban classes, wherein we start with a very basic Kanban system, or even at an individual level, to do, in progress, and done. And then we take it to the service delivery workflow, which is like 4 or 5 steps above. So how to scale Kanban, how in different directions, whether it is width, depth, or height, all of this is possible with Kanban. And you can have a Kanban system for a team as big as even like 400 people. One Kanban project with 400 people is also possible. So those examples, those Kanban board examples, are not put in this slide deck, and we are planning to do a series of webinars on Kanban, wherein we want to kind of share some of the details about the topics that I just mentioned in the upcoming webinars. But definitely, we do learn about all these things in Kanban. And what you see right now on the screen is a sample Kanban board. As I proceed, at the team level, usually participants ask me this question, like, what's the difference between Scrum and Kanban? And these are some differences that are highlighted, wherein in Scrum we have time boxing, whereas in Kanban we do not have time boxing. As soon as the capacity becomes available, we pull work on the Kanban board. Another point that comes out from this first bullet point is that you set the board to 0 after every sprint if you are doing Scrum, whereas in Kanban it is continuous. The work keeps flowing, so you never set the board to 0 in Kanban. But by doing that, and if you kind of start tracking your data on a cumulative flow diagram, which is one of the Kanban metrics, uh, you get to see the difference in your productivity. Like in this much time, or this was my lead time when I started, and I could deliver this much work in with this much lead time. And when I have kind of spent 4 months, 6 months in Kanban, now this is my lead time, and I'm able to deliver this much. So how you have improved over a period of time on the cumulative flow diagram, you can easily track that. Any question? Okay, I think there is no. Second bullet point talks about, product is released on a particular cadence, which is determined by the sprint's length. So a team may release after 3 sprints, or every 6 weeks. Release occur continuously or whenever there is a shippable product created. So many people have this misconception that Kanban does not talk about uh, review, sprint review, or retrospection, or there is no concept of demo. Of course, it is very much there, because if you are doing Scrum initially, and now if you are switching to Kanban, then you can apply Kanban to Scrum. And definitely, demo would be one of the workflow stages on your Kanban board. So Kanban does support that. Number one. Number two, if you are moving from waterfall to Kanban, then also whenever you decide the release date, you can release the completed work items to the customer. And if you are working in a story point mode, you can definitely go for a demo, and Kanban does support that. So when you learn how Kanban works outside of that to do in progress and done, then you kind of understand how we can use Kanban system to deliver work at a continuous pace, or faster pace to the customer. So that's the second bullet point. Third is there's a heavy focus on cross functionality. Teams have no specified roles. Everyone is a marketer under Scrum. That's what is mentioned. But we do have some specific roles, like, and things are changing right now in Scrum as well. I mean, we do have development team, Scrum Master, and product owner. And probably going forward, we would have only the team. But in Kanban, team members can specialize and pull tasks related to their area of expertise, but too much specialization will reduce a team's effectiveness. How to manage too much specialization? We learn that in Kanban. So we can have different functions, they can have their specific or separate Kanban boards, and we can also kind of make the workflow through these different specializations. However, to manage work, there are a couple of roles that are emerging in Kanban body of knowledge as well, like flow manager, or service delivery manager, or service request manager. If we are talking about lower maturity Kanban, then we talk about flow manager. But if we are talking about higher maturity, then definitely service request manager and service delivery manager are the two roles that are getting prescribed from Kanban University now. Last bullet point, when we look at under Scrum, it says that sprint kickoffs, daily stand-ups, sprint reviews, and sprint retrospectives are vital rituals within the Scrum process. And in Kanban, what we say is that there is an emphasis on continually improving processes, but no standardized regular meetings or rituals. I do not completely agree to this difference. Actually, Kanban is talking about cadences, and there's a big section that is dedicated to Kanban cadences, wherein we talk about 7 different cadences now, which are like a daily Kanban, replenishment meeting, then delivery planning meeting, service delivery review. So these 4 meetings, or the first 3 meetings, replenishment, daily Kanban, and delivery planning, are related to delivery of a service. And the other 3 that we talk about, which are responsible for improvement of a service, are service delivery review, operations review, and risk review. And outside of these 6 cadences, we also talk about strategy review, which happens with the leadership team, and at regular frequency. So these cadences, or these rituals, these ceremonies, do have a cadence defined, and a specific agenda. But the agendas of these meetings are a lot different than the agendas of the Scrum meetings. So that's the difference between Scrum and Kanban in a nutshell, I would say. There are a few other differences as well, but if anybody has got any specific question, I can answer that question in terms of differences between Scrum and Kanban. So here is
I have just posted that in chat section.
Mhm.
So you mentioned that there would be demos as well, right? The way we have in Scrum.
Yeah,
So wanted to check how frequent the demos are scheduled in Kanban, or is it on need?
need basis.
Okay.
Yeah, does that answer your question?
Yes, Amit.
Yeah, okay, thank you. So Ramya, basically, the way it happens in Kanban is like you, when you're at a lower maturity, the frequency is decided. Like we would be delivering work to the client every month or every 2 months or every
Okay.
3 months. So that frequency is decided. The way it works is Kanban talks about 4 different classes of service: expedite, fixed, standard, and intangible. As you are nearing the release date, some of your standard work items become fixed date, and entire team focuses on completing those work items so that the value can be delivered to the customer on the release date. So when you're when you start maturing on the Kanban maturity scale, when the organization starts maturing, then slowly the frequency of releases increase. They start delivering value faster to the customer with more predictability because of the availability of lead time data. And then and this lead time data is available for all types of work items with classes of service. So your predictability is much better now because of the availability of data. And then you eventually reach a state wherein you can even start delivering at every week. So it all depends on how matured the organization is, and that's why they do not recommend a particular frequency, but as per need, you can definitely plan your demos.
Okay. Yeah. Got it.
Right.
Thank you.
So here are examples of Kanban board versus Scrum board. The goal of Kanban board This goal of Kanban board tasks are continuous and not bound by time, whereas for Scrum, the goal of this type of process is to move all tasks from the to do to done column in a fixed amount of time or sprint. So when you look at this kind of an example, a myth that gets generated in the minds of the participants is that, does it mean that I can take whatever time I want to deliver my work to the customer if I'm following Kanban? Answer is definitely no. The way we track a matrix called lead time in Kanban, that actually tells you how much time you are taking to deliver a particular work item to the customer, or what is the average lead time for a work item type. And that's something that you are expected to improve in your Kanban system. You are expected to move your mean towards left. I mean, those of you who are familiar with statistical process control might get an idea about what I'm referring to. But in Kanban classes, we do show that to the participant, like how they can shift the mean or the average lead time towards left. That is reducing the average lead time. And this time boxing part, even if like you are completing a work item in 2 weeks or 3 weeks, you are showing demo of a working software. That does not mean that the software is shipped, or your product is shipped. It is not a shippable software, but it's a working software. So when it is actually going to get shipped, that, I mean, you do not the Scrum team is not having any control on that. In Kanban, when we are tracking lead time, we track that time as well, and we try to reduce the total lead time. So that way it becomes a lot more effective compared to Scrum and this time boxing. So that's briefly about this slide. And then moving again ahead. So when Kanban is the best choice, micro-sized teams to begin with, but eventually you can use Kanban for product development as well. Where there are frequent priority changes, yes, definitely. Maintenance projects, multiple small projects, all these areas where you can start with, I mean, definitely implement Kanban. And outside of all these areas, you can also use Kanban for product development. As I said, I have personally used Kanban, or rather worked on multiple Kanban projects, not only in software. And in software, I have used it for product development as well as maintenance and support. And at the same time, outside of IT organizations, I have used Kanban for sales team. I've used it for with a publishing house. I've used it in an architect's office. So Kanban is really easy and can be applied to any kind of work. So you can so when Kanban is the best choice, I would say always. Actually, that would be my answer based on the little understanding of Kanban that I have. But usually people carry this conception in their mind that whatever 4 bullet points that are there in front of you on the slide, Kanban is the best choice for these respective areas. And I would love to go into more details if anybody has got any question on this one. So how to leverage Kanban to create the agile organization for process improvement? So there is a lot of theory on this slide. Let's see if we can go into the details of it. As agile is more accepted as a way to develop software in organizations, some software teams and groups within IT are also becoming agile, but with using Kanban as their chosen agile methodology. And by leveraging Kanban in addition to Scrum, other groups in the organization like marketing, legal, finance, sales are also embracing agile by using Kanban boards to improve the way their business processes flow across the organization. Now, those of you who have come from SAFE background and are listening to this webinar, you have seen in SAFE that how do we create a cross-functional team of agile teams, which is called as agility string. Even if so, you need to kind of dismantle your existing org structure and create a new org structure. However, in Kanban, the way you create the Kanban system will help you to keep your hierarchical structure as is and connect them to each other through the Kanban boards, and then reviewing that work in the meeting called operations review. So all these teams would come together and they will figure out how the work is flowing through these different Kanban systems, and when the customer is getting value, which team is becoming bottleneck, and how we can resolve dependencies across teams. All that is possible without changing the org structure and dismantling teams, but to continue, but to do it with the existing teams. So that way, Kanban helps you to become agile a lot faster than other agile methodologies that we are familiar with. So that's what I would like to say here. And then our favorite agile manifesto: individuals and interactions over processes and tools, working software over comprehensive documentation, customer collaboration over contract negotiation, and responding to change over following a plan. Kanban helps you to respond to change a lot faster than any other agile methodology, is what I would say. Organizational agility is the ability of an organization to effectively sense and adapt in complex, rapidly changing conditions so that it can succeed as an organization. So improve flow with Kanban metrics, including cumulative flow, lead time, and cycle time. So what are the metrics that we have? Lead time, cycle time, throughput. Then we also track metrics related to defects in terms of initial quality and failure demand. These are the two metrics that we talk about when for quality. And then we also have cumulative flow diagram. Then we use run charts, and we also use histograms or lead time distribution charts to find out how we are performing. lead time distribution chart is one of the most important tools, I would say, or metrics, wherein we get to see the distribution, the curve of the distribution, and whether we have a fat tailed distribution or thin tailed distribution. And if the distribution is fat tailed, and problem always lies in the tail, is what we tell our participants. So how to reduce variation and bring the process under control, all of that gets discussed and learned in this under Kanban methodology. So these are some of the basic metrics that we are seeing on this slide. I guess there is some question pasted over there in the chat. Okay, Ramkrishna wants to know whether we can share this presentation. So Naveen, that's the question for you.
Yes, Mr. Ramkrishna, we will be sharing this presentation to you post the session along with the recording of the session. Thank you.
So there are definitions of these metrics: cycle time, throughput, work in progress. Cycle time is a key metric in Kanban. It measures how much time a task spends going through your process. Actually, I would go a little beyond this, and I would say that cycle time is the time that a task spends in a particular workflow stage. So all the work time is called as cycle time in Kanban, and end-to-end time that the task spends in the system is called as lead times. If your cycle time is on a lower side, that means sorry, I mean, cycle time cannot be on a lower side or a higher side, because that's the work time, and it should be standard for all the work items, or depending on the type of work items, your cycle time should be pretty much standard. However, your lead time, if you have a lower lead time, that means the work is moving faster through your system. But if the lead time is on a higher side and cycle time is on a lower side, that means your flow efficiency is not very good, and there are a lot of delays in the system. So that's how these metrics are used when we are analyzing the data. Throughput is very simple: number of work items that you have completed in a given period of time. That's how we define throughput in Kanban. Work in progress is something like, given available capacity, how many work items that can be there in the system at any given point of time is defined by work in progress limit. So these are the explanations about these three metrics. And then team performance. Cycle times and throughput are the ones to watch to make sure you are delivering results to your customers. So cycle time, throughput, and WIP are connected by Little's law. This formula applies to any system which meets Little's law assumptions. So cycle time or delivery rate is equal to WIP divided by cycle time is equal to WIP divided by throughput. Throughput is nothing but your delivery rate, or WIP divided by cycle time is equal to throughput. That's the formula that we use, and this formula is applied to cumulative flow diagram. And by using this formula, you can predict your performance based on the historical data. You can predict your future performance. Cumulative flow diagram tells you at any given point of time how many work items are there in a particular workflow state, and depending on the width of the cumulative flow diagram, you can decide whether the process is under control, or it is we need to take efforts to bring the process under control. One of the key indicators, if your cumulative flow diagram is showing that your process is not under control, and then work is moving in batches, the most important thing that will help you to bring everything under control is WIP limit. And there is a relationship between WIP limit, or rather WIP limit has a direct impact on your lead time and throughput. If you increase your WIP limit, that's what at an initial level, that's what the analysis shows, that if you increase your WIP limit, that means if you have more number of work items in the system, your throughput or delivery rate goes up, but your lead times are on a higher side. So you compromise your lead times to deliver more work to the customer. So you deliver more work to the customer, but there's a delay. So customer says, I do not want you to deliver it to me with such a long lead time. I want you to deliver it to me faster. In that case, you need to reduce your WIP limit. And if you reduce your WIP limit, your system also comes in, under control. You start delivering faster. So lead times are shorter, but your throughput also, for that unit of time, your throughput also comes down. So there's a direct relationship that has been observed between WIP and throughput and lead time. You can use, you can play with the numbers and arrive at the optimal numbers, which will give you the best lead time and best throughput. It is not something that a formula can give you. You will have to play with the numbers and figure out, like, what is in your scenario, what are the best numbers. And ultimately we talk about bottleneck. So in Kanban we talk about two types of bottlenecks. One is capacity constrained resource, and second is non-instant availability. These are higher topics, and we do not talk about these, about this in the initial or foundation level classes. But definitely in a class like Kanban Management Professional or KMP2 class, we do talk about how to resolve bottlenecks and what impact bottleneck would have on the Kanban system. So that's the last thing that's mentioned about the metrics over here on the slide. Then if you look at this slide, it is showing you job trends for Kanban, which is from IT Jobs Watch, and permanent and contract and all. So you see the trend, how it is moving over a period of last 10-12 years. And here's the salary for skill in India for Kanban. That's the average salary that we are sharing with you. So Agile Coach, average Scrum Master, and Certified Scrum Master, all of that is mentioned here. And that's one of the skills for an Agile Coach to know more about Kanban. So that's about that's a little bit about Kanban that we wanted to kind of share with you. And if you have any questions, I'm ready to take those questions. But before that, Naveen wants to take a poll. So Naveen, do you want to go ahead with the poll?
Yes, sir. I just launched the poll, so
Uh,
participants can just respond to the poll. Thank you.
yeah, sure. Is it okay, Naveen, if I take those two questions, which are from
Absolutely,
Desmond
sir.
and
Yeah,
Arvinda?
absolutely, sir. It's done. The polling is done. Thank you so much for your polling.
Okay, yeah, okay. So the first question is from Desmond, wherein he talks about product backlog maintained in Kanban. Could you elaborate more on that, Desmond?
In Scrum, we maintain the product backlog as a product owner, right? So whether the same approach is there in Kanban as well?
Absolutely. And Kanban, we talk about creating the options for development team through upstream Kanban, and the role that is responsible to do that is service request manager.
Okay, and that backlog refinement also will be there?
Yes, it will be part of that.
Okay, thank you.
Then Arvind has a question, how do we limit the WIP? Some examples. So Arvind, we can control or limit the work in progress multiple ways. We can control the WIP at individual level. So we can have 2 or 3 work items, or rather we can set the WIP limit as 2 or 3 per individual. So at any given point of time, we will have 2 or 3 work items in the individual's work basket, or we can decide the WIP for the team, entire team. We can decide the WIP, which is called as constant WIP. So we can decide the work in progress for the entire system, wherein at any given point of time, we will have those many work items in the system, or we can decide the WIP by class of service. So that way, there are multiple ways you can limit the work in progress in Kanban. Does it answer your question, Arvind?
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Anything more that you want to know about it?
Actually, I mean to say, let's take an example of an application
Mm-hmm.
who are having 5 resources,
Mm-hmm.
and by that, you know, so we can. I mean to say, with the starting, let's say, we can limit the work in progress for at least for 7 items, and then with the past experience, we can keep on changing that. So,
Yeah, but
just I wanted to understand that. Yeah.
So this example that you use right now, say we can limit it to
Yeah.
7. It would be at team level. You can
Yes,
also
team
decide.
level, yeah.
You can also limit the WIP at individual level. Like if I have 5 resources, my WIP limit per individual would be 2. So
Yeah.
each individual will have 2 work items in the system. Now, if you
Understood.
decide to apply the WIP limit lower than the number of team members, like you can also have a WIP limit of 4, and you have 5 team members. That means what is the extra team member going to do?
Yeah, understood.
It will force the 5th team member to collaborate with other team members, right?
Mm.
Because he cannot sit idle. He or she cannot sit idle, right? So there are multiple ways you can play with the WIP limit. It all depends on what is the arrival rate of new information. That is how the work is flowing in your Kanban system, and how much you are delivering. So what's your capability? So that also plays an important role in deciding your WIP limit.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah. Then Premananda asks that is Kanban a better development approach for large projects? I would say, based on my experience and whatever I have seen so far, definitely yes, Kanban works a lot better for development approach. I mean, works a lot better for large projects. If you have any specific question, like any specific area, Premanand, then if you can ask that, then I can answer in a better way.
It's okay. I have got.
Okay. Ramya asks, could you apply Kanban even in safe framework? Oh yes, absolutely. Much better. I will probably create, Ramya, I'm probably creating an example of how Kanban can be applied in a better way in safe environment.
Okay.
So that, walkthrough of that will help you understand how you can actually apply WIP limits in upstream Kanban to make the
Mhm.
workflow better, and which will be in line with the capacity of the development teams. So I'm creating that example right now. So once I'm
Okay.
done with it, probably Naveen can contact you and I can walk you through that.
Sure. So, Amit, a follow-up question on that. So, when you said that yes, we can apply Kanban to the safe framework, right? So, is
Mhm.
it possible for us to have 1 out of 5 teams to work on Kanban and rest into safe or maybe Scrum?
That is how the boards are. I mean, that is how the that is how it has been designed right now. My personal opinion, if you ask me, my personal opinion is like either you should go for full Scrum or Kanban. Do not go for a hybrid method, because the team which is working on Kanban versus the teams that are working on Scrum, if the work is not managed properly, the options are not created properly in the upstream part, that is your portfolio Kanban and program Kanban, then you will always end up delivering lesser work in at the end of every PI. So it's better to kind of go for a pure approach is what I would suggest.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Manish, you are asking a question how to calculate WIP limit. Any example, please? So I've already talked about it. Do you want me to kind of uh, talk about it?
Yeah, if you can, just taking an example, maybe like a 7-member team is there, and consisting of four developers and 3 QA, something like that. So maybe just to start off with a team like implementing the Kanban. So what should be the initial?
I usually recommend like 2 or 3 work items per individual at the lower maturity level, and from individual level you can always switch to team level. That's the next logical progression, and then the third step would be to move it to the workflow level. So that's how I would recommend to move when you're applying WIP limit. So to give you an example, if you have 4 developers, you can start with around 2 work items or 3 work items per developer in the system. And again, similar WIP limit for the testers as well. So 4 developers, 3 testers. Then you need to map it to the lead time that each team is taking. So how much, what are the development work item types? What is the lead time for each of those work items? And how much time is taken for testing for those work item types, and based on that ratio, then you will have to play with your WIP limits to make the workflow through the entire system.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks.
And then your second question is Scrum and Kanban can be implemented together? Scrumban, the body of knowledge that has evolved over a period of time, many of the Scrum practitioners and trainers, what they did is they just introduced a 3-column Kanban board into their Scrum, and they started calling it as Scrumban. That is to do, in progress, and done. But that is not Scrumban. If at all you want to know more about Scrumban, you should definitely read the white papers published by a person called Corey Ladas, Coreyladas. So
Okay.
that person, okay, sorry, I sent it to StarAgile. So if you could send that name to everybody, Naveen, that would be helpful. So he is the one who first coined that term in 2008, and he has published a lot of white papers. Corey directly worked with David Anderson, and around 2007, 2008, and then he published a white paper on Scrumban at one of the conferences, and from there he kept on publishing a lot of papers on that. All those papers are available as free download on Google, so you can always download that. So Scrumban is not just about like introducing that Kanban board in the form of to do, in progress, and done, and then doing Scrum. It's like rather exactly opposite. It is about applying all of Kanban to Scrum, and eventually it so happens. So in Kanban, we ask a question: how many improvements you have done in last 6 months? And if your answer is 0, then we tell that means you are not doing Kanban. So Kanban talks about evolutionary change. Though we are talking about delivering work at a sustainable pace, but we keep evolving. We keep moving to the next level. We are moving from a fragile organization to an anti-fragile organization, and we go through certain stages when we are working on Kanban techniques. So that part is very important. Scrumban is like, it is not an evolutionary change. You are not growing, you are not getting a lot of benefits that are offered by Kanban. So I would say that would be very limited use of Kanban. Does it answer your question, Manish, or you want me to add something more? Manish?
Actually, it is asked by
Sorry,
me.
sorry, I was talking on mute. Yes, yes, it does.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah,
you so
thanks.
much.
Oh, there are two Manish.
Actually, Manish has shared the link with me. I'm his colleague, so I just joined. This is Vikas Salunge. So I raised that question.
Question.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, okay.
Okay.
So because does it answer your question?
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Okay,
Thanks
perfect.
a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. So there are a few questions that are coming from Aniruddha. So I like Kanban for its transparency and push-pull mechanism. Not actually push, it's always pull mechanism. But I always thought it lacks strong metrics which can be shared in the governance meetings to forecast the completion date. Or rather, Kanban tells you how to forecast the completion date. When you look at the lead time distribution, and it is not just one number. You do not look at average. Like you do not look at mean, median, and mode and tell that if I'm starting a particular work item today, it will take these many days. It is a combination of two things. You always tell when you are forecasting, you always tell that I will complete these or this work item. If I'm starting it today, I'll complete it in these many days, and that is not your average, that is not your mean, by the way. I will be completing it in these many days with this much percent of confidence. So you're telling that I'll be delivering it in 10 days with 90% confidence. Is that okay with you? Or you want me to be 100% confident? Then if you want me to be 100% confident, then probably I will take 13 days. So it is on the distribution and the range of data you are able to kind of give that answer. So that, I mean, it's very much there in Kanban that uh, you can forecast the completion date. That was your first question. Before I go to the next question, Anirudh, do you want to ask any sub question to what you have written there?
No, I don't have any sub questions to that. I will have to probably explore the and understand more about the Kanban matrix. Is there any book or link that you suggest which can be referred?
Absolutely. I mean, you can read the Blue Book by David J. Anderson, uh, Kanban, which was published in 2010. Right now, the second book which has got published, Kanban Maturity Model, they are not, I mean, what I am telling you right now is at a very, again, superficial level because of the time availability. But we actually have published a guidance now how the lead time distribution, what are the different types of lead time distributions, how they work in different scenarios, how to use that for different classes of service, and how to predict your completion date. So we have also released some work around triage tables wherein you can enter the work item type, you can enter the class of service, and you will get the completion date. Right, you can forecast, like if I start this work item on this day, this is when it will be completed, how late I can start this work item to meet that timeline, and what impact it will have on the overall distribution. All that guidance is available as triage table guidance. And Kanban University has also now published, or rather they have come up with a software wherein you can enter these details and you can get the dates and predictions. So very much that guidance is available, and it is much better than weighted shortest job first.
Sure, I'll look at those. Thanks.
Yeah. Then your second question is, do you estimate the work in Kanban and how? Kanban is silent about estimation method, and the reason is very simple. We know, based on the lead time distribution, we know how much time a particular work item will take to complete and by when we can deliver it. Now, does your story point estimation have any relation with by when you will be able to deliver it? Answer is no. It will just tell you how much points you are going to take to complete the work item. But when it will get delivered and how it is related with the lead time, that part is not there in Scrum. So does Kanban talk about any particular any kind of estimation method? Answer is no. Kanban says start with what you do now. So whichever estimation method that you are using right now, you can continue with that. Can you estimate the end date when it will be completed? Absolutely yes, based on lead time distribution. And when you have more data about around your lead time distribution, then you do not find a need even to estimate for for the work items, you save that time on estimation, and you start predicting your performance based on the lead time distribution. So that's the answer to that question.
Okay.
Any sub question? You're comfortable?
No sub questions.
Okay.
Thank you.
Then can Kanban be used for fixed schedule and or fixed cost projects? Absolutely yes. Rather, Kanban works a lot better in that kind of a scenario, fixed schedule and fixed cost projects. How? It's difficult to explain in remaining 7-8 minutes in this webinar, but definitely it works a lot better in that kind of scenario. And fourth question is, which is a closest agile methodology with which Kanban can marry for the best outcome? Like, is it Scrumban and is it valid? Answer is no. I mean, Kanban can marry with any agile methodology. Kanban can work on its own and it's a lot better. But even if you want to apply Kanban with something else, absolutely it works with any methodology. And there is nothing like which is the closest. I mean, any methodology will do. The Kanban doesn't have any kind of restriction that I'll work with this methodology or I'll not work with this methodology. Nothing like that. It works with all the methodologies.
Sure. Thanks, Amit.
Yeah. Any other question?
Yeah, hi Amit. This is Premanando.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a questions that what about the scheduling? Means release planning is the same just like Scrum or it's something different in Kanban?
So the way scheduling happens is little different than the way you do release planning in Scrum. Since we talk about different types of classes of service, in Kanban we talk about work item types and classes of service. That means how do you treat those work items based on cost of delay. So when you start capturing data uh, for lead time distribution, and you map that distribution with the particular work item types, that kind of acts as an input for you to schedule a particular work item. So once you get the data, then scheduling changes. Initially you can do it with the way you are doing it, but with the availability of data and lead time distributions and a class of service, that is by when it should be completed, you can the scheduling is going to change.
So my question is, can we achieve the 100% target just like we
Yes.
are through Scrum, we are maintaining through Scrum, we are achieving through Scrum. So we can do in Kanban also, like we can achieve the 100% target.
What do you mean by achieving 100% target through Scrum?
See, whenever the sprint planning happens, so we are taking that whatever the team can deliver, like development can deliver. It's the development team decisions, right? So I think the same, that is why I mentioned earlier the development approach, right? So in the development, Kanban also similar development approach using Agile, right? So here we can say that our team, I mean, I don't know what is the hierarchy of the Kanban teams. It may be just like as you earlier told that there may be some development team, product owner as well as Scrum Master, right? So here should be the same hierarchy or something different. I don't know that amount of details we haven't gone. Maybe as your tutorial is there, so we can go for that. But I want to know finally that whenever development team is taking a target, that these number of stories or something, whatever the things we have to take into that iterations, and we will post it in our release plan. That this should be in the release, right? So 100%, can we achieve that 100%?
Yes, you can. And your predictability would be much better. I mean, what I have seen is for many of the Scrum teams, the work gets spilled over or story points get spilled over to the next sprint. But with Kanban and with your, with the various metrics that we have, you can definitely achieve that.
So here the same like burn down chart and burn up chart, these are the same kind of means notations will come.
We don't use burn down charts.
Okay.
We use cumulative flow diagram, and it with the Little's law, cumulative flow diagram it's a much better indicator of how you are performing, and you can take corrective action a lot faster with the cumulative flow diagram.
Okay. Thanks, Amit.
Yeah.
Amit, this is Vikas again. I have one question related to, because now as in Agile we have to move fast. So like now best practices have come like TDD, BDD, and again CI/CD and DevOps and all those things.
Correct.
So how we like not in detail, just brief, like how we get adapted with all these things with Kanban, and how it will be more beneficial. I'm not comparing it with any other agile framework, but like wanted to know that how it will be more beneficial, or what will be the things with
Kanban
these.
and Kanban and DevOps works a lot better with each other, I would say. That is like in some whoever asked that question above, whether Kanban can marry, which is the methodology with which Kanban can marry, or something like that.
Mhm.
So there is a book written on that topic, basically, wherein you must have heard this concept, like reducing your batch size.
Yeah.
Have you? Right? Kanban, brings it down to a single piece flow. If at all you implement Kanban in the best possible way, you come down to the single piece flow. Means your batch size is the smallest, and work is moving a lot faster. And if you have CI/CD in place, that means whatever work item that you are completing is directly moving into production. So with Kanban, that becomes a lot easier, I would say. So definitely they work very well with each other. And if you want to know more about it, do read this book called Accelerate.
Accelerate. Okay.
Yeah,
Definitely, I'll
Accelerate. Yeah,
just check this book. Yeah.
yeah.
Who's the
Interestingly, DevOps also
author?
talks about. I don't remember the name of the author,
Okay, I'll
but
just check. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's there. Yeah. Accelerate. Yeah.
Who's the author?
It's Jenikim, Jez Hamble, and Nicole Forsgren. They have this Accelerate the Science of Lean Software and DevOps, Building and Scaling High
Yeah.
Performing Technology Organizations. This one.
Okay. But if possible, I'll send the details through StarAgile. No worries.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Any other question?
No, that's it.
No, not to you. I mean to other
Okay.
participants, like
Yes.
any other
Yeah.
person. Any other question?
I think that's all questions. There are no raise hands or chat options.
Okay. So for any
Thanks all.
queries, you can always get in touch with Narayana or Pranay. Their phone numbers and mail IDs are available here, so you can talk to them. Is it all? Yep.
Thanks all.
Thank you. 1 minute, hold on. Is there anything that has come in the chat? No, thank you. Sylvia says thank you. So thank you, Sylvia, for joining. She was the first one to join.
Thank you, Amit.
Thank you.
Amit, just sorry to trouble you at the
No
end.
worries.
Yeah. So, how is the learning and certification part? I just wanted to know in Kanban, like journey in brief, if you can. Maybe I joined late. Maybe
No,
you're
I did
joining
not
late.
talk about it, but if you are okay, can I share? Can I stop this presentation for a minute? That would be
Yeah.
actually, that's a very good question. And those who are still there in the call, if you could stay for a couple of minutes, I will show you the certification journey. Give me a few seconds. I'll share it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me know if my screen is visible to all of you.
Not yet, Amit.
Okay, so now,
Yes.
so that's the basic learning path, wherein at practitioner level class, we talk about, a 1 day class, which is Team Kanban practitioner. Then we talk about two classes, different classes, 2 days each. Kanban system design for 2 days and Kanban system improvement for 2 days. And when you do both these classes, Kanban system design plus Kanban system improvement, you get a credential called Kanban Management Professional. So you will get a class completion certificate for Kanban system design and Kanban system improvement. But after completing both the classes, you will get a credential called Kanban Management Professional. And after doing KMP, the next step for you is improving maturities, like driving improvement initiatives with the use of KMM as a playbook. So Kanban maturity model, a 2 day class, and Kanban coaching practices as another 2 day class. So after completing these 2 + 2 days, you get the credential as Kanban coaching professional, KCP. So that's the basic learning path for Kanban. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, so this is the standard certifying body, like
Yes.
I guess it's Kanban
University.
University. So
Yeah.
like what we have in
Scrum
the
Alliance.
yes,
Yeah.
Scrum Alliance and Scrum.org are there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is it the single one, or are there any other like
The single one.
standard, or
Single
okay,
one.
single one?
Yeah.
Okay. Team Kanban and Kanban Management Professional, and then Kanban Coaching.
Coaching professional. Yeah. So total, it's 9 days training. Team Kanban practitioner 1 day, Kanban system design 2 days, Kanban system improvement 2 days, Kanban maturity model 2 days, and Kanban coaching practices 2 days.
Okay. And we have to go step by step, like
Yeah,
Kanban
if
Management
you the minimum requirement for Kanban coaching professional is you should be KMP.
KMP. Okay. So
Yeah.
we can directly take the KMP certification also, or we have to first get it the Team Kanban
No,
practitioner,
you
and
can
then
go for directly go for KMP. Kanban
okay.
system design plus Kanban system improvement.
Okay. Yeah.
And the class that we have scheduled next week or next weekend is the Kanban system design class.
Okay.
Yeah. So in addition to what I wanted to show you was like this is the Kanban blue book that I was talking about by David J. Anderson. Whoever asked that question or whomever I answered that. So this is the first book that got published on Kanban in 2010. Then Mike Burrow's book from 2014, Kanban from Inside. Now this is the second edition or based on the 1.2 release of Kanban maturity model. So that's the book which is published like 2 weeks back. I have also contributed in this book. Then there are two essential Kanban guides, essential Kanban condensed guide and essential upstream Kanban. So whoever asked the question about how we can whether we refine the product backlog and all of that, all that is covered in upstream Kanban. So this is how how do we create those options. So that's what we talk about in upstream Kanban. And these are some of the Kanban tools like Swift Kanban from Digite, Kanbanize, and Nave. So just wanted to kind of give you a quick view of it.
Yeah. Thanks a lot.
Yeah. So thank you very much for staying back, those 15 of you who stayed back, including StarAgile.
So maybe Amit, like somebody from StarAgile team can send the details about the fee structure and all to us. So maybe it's possible.
Sure.
Absolutely, Manish. Yeah, we will be sharing you all the details. Okay,
Great.
tomorrow morning you will be getting an email from our team. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Amit.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Amit.
Thanks, Amit. Yeah.
Thank you. Can we close the call?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Desmond, you had a question? Okay. So let's close the call.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so
Thank you.
much for your time.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you everyone for joining. Have a good night.
Good night. Bye bye.